But you know what else is true? You can't have 246 years of folks engaged in a traumatic experience that were white that went unaffected. That means everybody has been affected and infected by this thing. So that's the part that gets uncomfortable, because it's usually okay to look at the other. We're going to look at everybody. This is going to be one where we really show the elephant in the room, and only for the purposes of recognizing that unless we do so, none of us can heal. This is not a process that any of us can do individually by ourselves. This is a collective process. And so therefore, we're all going to be engaged. And it's not just a pointing of fingers at anyone. It's recognizing that you and I, all of us, have been impacted by historical multi-generational trauma. Now,
they say slavery didn't affect us. What's your response? How could slavery have not affected us? Our women are strung out on fake hair and blonde hair. Our men are strung out on white women. Black people own no institutions. We don't want to build no institutions.
Hello good people, welcome to African Commentary. Here we learn and grow every day. First of all, I want to wish you all a happy new year, a new year full of prosperity, good things, all the best things that you have ever dreamt of. This is the year you're going to achieve everything. So in today's video, I want us to talk about something which is called post-traumatic slavery syndrome. It is a concept that was developed by Dr. DEGRUY. And what is post-traumatic slavery syndrome? She defined it as a condition resulting from centuries of slavery, followed by Jim Crow, segregation, racial violence, and ongoing systemic racism, with the trauma passed down across generations. This is a concept developed by an African American. She's an African American and also a social worker. And this is something that we don't talk about enough. You see, people just tell Black Americans to move on. Yes, many years has passed. Let's forget about everything. Let's just move on with life. But do people consider that you guys might be undergoing the effects of slavery, the effects, post-effects of slavery, of Jim Crow, of segregation? So this is what I want us to talk about in this video. And before I say much, let's watch some videos whereby we learn more about what is post-traumatic slavery syndrome. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I will really appreciate.
but you know what else is true? You can't have 246 years of folks engaged in a traumatic experience that were white that went unaffected. That means everybody has been affected and infected by this thing. So that's the part that gets uncomfortable, because it's usually okay to look at the other. We're going to look at everybody. This is going to be one where we really show the elephant in the room, and only for the purposes of recognizing that unless we do so, none of us can heal. This is not a process that any of us can do individually by ourselves. This is a collective process. And so therefore, we're all going to be engaged. And it's not just a pointing of fingers at anyone. It's recognizing that you and I, all of us, have been impacted by historical multi-generational trauma. Now, let's look at it very specifically. When we look at trauma in its very, clinical sense, my background, clinical psychology, understanding what trauma is, people can experience a single trauma, one trauma, indirectly, meaning that they didn't have to be present for the direct trauma. Meaning, say, for example, you all heard about 9/11 and taking down the buildings in New York, right? Yes? 9/11. Everybody in the world got told about that. Matter of fact, I think everybody in America got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of that. But I would submit to you, we were traumatized long before that. But there were individuals that were at ground zero, and I know them. My niece was in one of the buildings. So she decided, while she was in one of the buildings, they kept telling her, just stay where you are. They kept saying, stay where you are. We think people should stay where they are. She said, and everything in her mind said, get out. So she got out. Matter of fact, she leapt over the security guard to get out of the building. And it's a good thing she did. But during that time, there were people at ground zero, for example, like my niece, And there were people who watched it on television. And then there were people in other countries who heard about it. So there are varying levels of understanding around this trauma that happened in the United States. There were people at ground zero, were there, saw folks falling out the sky, got videotape footage of it, watched it on television, invited folks over and drank beer. Not traumatized. No trauma. There were people maybe in another country, in Brazil, saw it on television, in psychotherapy right now, can't get on planes, on medication, and people talk softly to them twice a week. So the variance in terms of those who are traumatized by a traumatic event and those who are not, we're unique as individuals. Everybody's not traumatized by a traumatic event, whether it's direct or not. But when we start talking about chattel slavery, we're not talking about one trauma. We're not talking about a specific event. We're talking about generations of trauma with no intervention. Based on what I know about sugar plantations, tobacco, and the Caribbean, what I know about American chattel slavery and the plantations there, does anyone right now ever recall mental health assistance to slaves? Anybody remember sending in the therapist after I sold off your son, daughter, raped folks? At any point? Never. Second question. After slavery was officially over, now you're free. Anybody remember any therapy then? We know it's been rough, it's been deep for you, it's been difficult. We're going to do a little group therapy. Anybody remember that? That would be no. Number 3, after slavery officially ended, both in the States, in the Caribbean, the British, do you remember whether or not trauma continued? Did the trauma continue for people against? So I think on one point, African people and people of African descent are extremely resilient. Matter of fact, I think we're a miracle. Far be it for us to pathologize or to look and cast this idea of weak and sick people. Oh, on the contrary, I'm profoundly resilient because we've done everything we've done thus far with no help, with not even the ability to have this discussion. As though it were possible, we escaped injury in all those hundreds of years and the years that followed.
I'm going to be talking about the altering of our DNA and what it did to us and why we have higher mortality rates in the Black community. The job of DNA is to collect information, whether it is positive information or negative information. Anything that it comes in contact with, no matter what it is, can alter your DNA. We come from a lineage of people who have mostly come in contact with negative energy. Relaxation is the first step to being healthy. To relax is to be stress-free. No hate, no sadness, no low vibratory emotions of any kind is to be inside. Positive thoughts serve you. Negative thoughts harm you. Being calm equals realignment. Your body needs realignment in order to stimulate the nervous system, which extends your health and prolongs your life. To attain peace is very important because the nervous system, which is a major communicating system that the body consists of to balance out all of the functions in your body. When you think about slavery and the hundreds of years that we had to endure horrific things, when were we ever relaxed and stress-free? That's one major thing that altered our DNA. And when you alter your DNA, you alter your immune system. You alter your nerves. Nerves are stimulated by touch and sound. When toxic substances such as negative thoughts, poor condition, such as poverty, depression, hate, fear, and violence, all these instances and substances carry vibrations that touch the nerves. This carries a sound, and sounds are vibrations. Your nervous system must be in harmony to maintain proper health. Nerves are electrical. They describe as sensations. It is important to keep the nervous system healthy because this is how the body communicates with the other functions of the body to carry out tasks to maintain a proper health. Damaged nerves from stress hinders signals from properly transmitting through the body, and stress releases high cortisol. Too much cortisol released into the bloodstream deteriorates and erodes the nervous system. This will result in a weakened immune system. This is what happened to us over time. Dealing with slavery and oppression, it was passed down from our great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers. It was passed to us. So when someone tells you to get over slavery, it's way deeper than that. Also, fear is their best weapon, used against us by our oppressors to keep us sick. Joy is an energy that sends positive electrical energy. That is something that we were stripped of. We had brief moments of joy for music, community, our children, love. But there was so much sadness, so much anger. You do not understand just how much that alone alters your DNA. Fear is a disease that poisons your heart. This is something that they use as well. Fear. Fear causes stress to your heart, which will pump all of these emotions to your other organs, causing organ damage. This is why you see so many people in the Black community with kidney disease, all types of organ failure. During slavery, Caucasians gave us diseases and viruses. Diseases and viruses alters the DNA. That is why it is important to repair your DNA through herbal remedies and nutrients from certain foods that are high in zinc. Why do I say zinc? Zinc blocks the viruses and diseases. It has been proven that cultures that lack zinc in their diets suffer from many diseases. We were stripped of nutrients. We were given scraps for over 400 years. We were given organs, pig guts. We were given nothing but rice and canned foods. We came from the richest soil. We came from natural food, natural remedies, natural vegetables. And we came over here and we were eating out of cans. That is how Caucasians were eating. Our bodies never adjusted. Zinc directly inhibits viral replication. If we were still in Africa, we would be able to still use those things for all of those years. But guess what? We weren't. So we were passing down diseases to the next generation through low vibrational emotions and diet. Yes, you can pass those things to your children. We would have been more protected. But instead, we are seeing high numbers of us having all of these diseases: heart disease, diabetes, organ failure, high mortality rates of Black women when they have children. You have to question that. That is not normal. And it is all a result of slavery and oppression. Zinc recharges the DNA to change the vibration of the infected DNA back to the charge that we need to repair it. When the DNA is repaired, the proper directions can be promoted to the cells of the body to repair it, to repair diseases, and to fight off diseases. They don't tell us this. We do not remember. We don't remember our ancestors' way of life. We don't remember what we're supposed to put in our body, so we just put whatever in our body. Our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents are victims. We are victims. We are still victims. I never understood the get over slavery thing. It still affects us to this day. And it is up to us to fix and repair ourselves. But without the proper knowledge, how can we do that? Feelings, images, and experiences that came from slavery and oppression for hundreds and hundreds of years are stored in our memory through our cells and our DNA. That is why we still suffer till this day. Because our grandparents were victims of negative ways and the lack of proper dieting, it's up to us.
They say slavery didn't affect us. What's your response? How could slavery have not affected us? Our women are strung out on fake hair and blonde hair. Our men are strung out on white women. Black people own no institutions. We don't want to build no institutions. We got light skin supremacy and black skin supremacy issues. We are in love with white folks. We hate each other. Who said slavery doesn't affect us? Do you realize slavery just ended 157 years ago? My great-great-great-great-grandfather was born in slavery. Slavery was not that long ago. You have elders today whose grandparents were enslaved. You can find elders today whose grandparents were enslaved. And you can definitely find elders whose great-grandparents were enslaved. The white man is trying to paint slavery like an ancient event. And the reason he's trying to paint slavery like an ancient event, because he don't want to be held responsible for his role in it. Reparations, reparations, reparations. You understand me? He don't want to pay reparations, so he got to get black people to feel ashamed about talking about slavery. He has to motivate black folks to feel ashamed talking about slavery. I will never stop talking about what my ancestors went through. I will never stop talking about what my ancestors went through, brothers and sisters. The slave system turned us into eternal children in this country. What do children do? They spend their money on the things that they like.
Right.
And they beg their parents for the things that they need. Is that not Black America? $2 billion on Air Jordans every year.
You're right.
$4 billion on liquor, $30 billion on hair and beauty, nearly $1 billion on chicken, turkey, beef, and pork, multiple billion on video games, multiple million on children's cologne. Children's cologne. Check this out. We spent
I didn't
about
even know they had that. Like,
we spent about $21 million on children's cologne a year.
wow. What the fuck is children cologne?
You know, baby Polo, baby Versace.
Oh,
they got children's
okay.
cologne. But half the Black boys in America in 4th grade can't read on their grade level.
That's a fact.
Half the Black boys in America in 8th grade can't read on their grade level. But we
Definitely.
spending $21 million on cologne.
Trauma can be passed down from generations to generation, and that's what we call generational traumas. These are things that maybe our ancestors experienced and they were passed down to the children, then to the children of the children. It's something that just goes on from generations to generations. And so when we talk about post-traumatic slavery syndrome, it's something that has been passed from generations to generations, you see? So for modern day Black Americans, they might have not experienced these things, slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, but they experienced the effects that came with those things. The traumas, let me call them the traumas, they experienced the traumas from all these things that happened to their parents, to their great-great-grandparents, you see. So for the world to just tell Black Americans, you know what, you need to forget all those things and move on, they can't move on when the trauma is not recognized, when the trauma is not acknowledged, when there is no healing. Actually, with these generational traumas, in order for us to break them, or in order for Black Americans to break them, they need to heal. And the way they can heal is maybe through reparations, through acknowledgement. Is when those people who made them suffer from all those things acknowledge and take responsibility and tell Black Americans that, you know what, we made you guys suffer a lot. We did this to your ancestors, we did this to your community, and it's high time we need to acknowledge and repay you. We need you to heal. And also for someone experiencing generational trauma, it's kind of hard for them to move on past the traumas when the traumas keep on being reopened, like they're just like wounds that you try to heal the wound, you try to apply some medicine to heal the wound, but then a system or some people come again and open the wound, keep the wound open, and you see the wound starts to bleed and the pain comes back, you see. So if we talk about Black Americans should move on past all these things, are we putting them in a situation that is enabling them to move on? We have modern day triggers that keep reopening the wound to Black Americans, such as police violence, racial profiling, economic exclusion, and media stereotypes. All these things trigger the traumas. So if we want Black Americans to heal, we need to provide for them the environment where they can heal. You can't be healing a patient in the jungle and not in a hospital and expect them to heal. You see, you're not providing them what is needed to heal. You're not giving them medicine, you're not giving them some water, some good food, but you just want them to heal because they have been ill for a long time. No, it doesn't work like that. We need to provide these people, the system needs to provide Black Americans a safe environment whereby all social injustices come to an end, whereby police violence come to an end, whereby systemic discrimination come to an end. So from that point we can say, now you know what, we have provided you a good environment, we have acknowledged your pain, your traumas, and we are giving you a safe place to heal. We are giving you a safe environment whereby you will not be excluded in maybe economic issues, political issues, you see, whereby Black Americans are included in everything that concerns them, that concerns the country in which they are. In this specific country, I'm talking about America. Some of the modern day effects of slavery on Black Americans are family separation legacies. Slavery normalized forced family breakups, which also affected long-term impacts on attachment, trust, and stability. That's why I can say some Black Americans families struggle with the consistent father presence traced to historic disruption and not moral failure. You see, some people like to blame Black Americans, especially men, that they don't know how to take care of families, they don't know how to be there for their families. But this is just one of the many effects of slavery that is happening on them. They just so it's okay that families can live apart, that breakups are not a big deal. You see, these are just effects of slavery that are affecting Black Americans right now. You also have the issue of chronic illnesses because the ancestors were taking like poor diet, not out of desire, because of lack. They didn't have good food. They needed to come up with their own recipes, the soul food that I always talk about. They got some chronic illnesses, not all, but some of them, which they passed down to their families, to their generations. You see, in certain families, you can find that the family people just suffer from maybe diabetes, and it's not something that they chose for themselves. It just happened due to the condition of how their ancestors were living, the foods they were taking. Another effect is hyper-independence, whereby Black Americans don't rely on anyone. Strength becomes a burden, and asking for help is seen as weakness. It made Black Americans to rely on themselves. They really don't, most of them don't ask for help because they see that asking for help is seen as weakness. You see, back then, their ancestors used to fight for themselves. They just got themselves to fight for them. And even right now, Black Americans don't really have anyone to rely on. So in most of the time, they just fight for their own rights. They fight for their own spaces. And this is something that we are proud of, you Black Americans. So don't ever feel bad. Don't ever see asking for help as weakness. I know you have been conditioned to be that way, but it's still okay to ask for help. Don't ever feel like you're burdening someone else by asking for help. Another effect of slavery that modern day Black Americans face is identity disruption, loss of African languages, names, and spiritual systems, and also rebuilding identity under a hostile racial system. You see, when slavery happened, Black Americans lost a lot. They lost their identity, they lost their names, they lost their languages, and they had to start up from scratch. They lost their culture, so that right now they're even trying to have their own culture. They do have their own culture right now that is made up by them, because whatever they had from wherever they were coming from back then, it was lost. So they just had to come with something new. There is an ostrich here, so I was a bit scared, yeah. Post-traumatic slave syndrome does not mean that Black Americans are weak, broken, or doomed. No, it means there is context behind pain. Healing requires truth, acknowledgement, and repair. And strength exists because people survive the trauma. So this just shows that Black Americans are very strong people. They are very resilient despite everything, despite the generational traumas. They're still trying to live their life. They're still strong, they're still standing up for themselves. So when you talk about post-traumatic slavery syndrome, it does not mean that you guys are weak or you guys can't do anything. No, we're just acknowledging that behind this condition there is something that happened, and that's why people should not just tell Black Americans that happened 400 years ago, it's something you need to forget. They can't just forget about it like that. It's something that needs to be acknowledged. It's something that needs healing, and healing cannot happen when there is no repair. Why can't Black Americans get reparations? Why can't they be, it's like being, is it refunded? Why can't they be, what's the word? The pain they have undergone for all those years cannot just be forgotten like that. They need to be acknowledged and repaired. That's when we can call for healing. So let me know your thoughts about this video. For Black Americans, you're strong people. Keep on pushing. Never let your guard down. You are very strong. You are very resilient. You didn't choose to undergo through that. It just happened. You were born and found things like that. And never feel that you can't come out of that condition. It's something that is doable. With time, with healing, things are going to be okay. And with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I will really appreciate. See you in the next one. Bye.